The medic and the Telos, there are moments in history that feel almost unbelievable, moments where one person's courage shines so brightly it pushes back the darkness of the world. If only for a little while. Today, we're going to one of those moments. We're going to a 400-foot cliff of rock and fury in the Pacific. A place the soldiers called Hacksaw Ridge. And we're going to meet the unlikely man who made it holy ground. In the spring of 1945, the battle for Okinawa was one of the deadliest of the entire war. At the heart of it was the Maeda Escarpment, or Hacksaw Ridge. It was a fortress. To take it, American soldiers had to climb ropes and cargo nets straight up its face, directly into a storm of machine gun fire and mortars. It was a place where men went up, but few came down. Among the soldiers of the 77th Infantry Division was a combat medic named Desmond Doss. And Desmond was different. He was a quiet, devout Seventh-day Adventist from Virginia who believed the Bible's command, "Thou shalt not kill," was absolute. So, he enlisted to serve his country, but he refused to carry a weapon. You can imagine how that went over in basic training. He was seen as a coward, a liability. His fellow soldiers mocked him, threw their boots at him while he prayed. His superiors tried everything to get him discharged. They couldn't understand him. Why would a man willingly walk into the inferno of war, but refuse the one tool everyone else believed was necessary for survival? Desmond's answer was simple. He was there to save lives, not take them. On May 5th, his company made their assault on the ridge. The initial push was successful, but the Japanese counterattack was swift and brutal. The ridge exploded in chaos. The order came down, retreat. Men scrambled back to the edge of the cliff, rappelling down the nets to safety, leaving the wounded and dying behind in the kill zone. But one man didn't retreat. Desmond Doss stayed. Alone. On top of Hacksaw Ridge, with enemy patrols sweeping the area. He looked out at the field of his fallen comrades. And he started to pray. It wasn't a prayer for his own safety. It was a plea for strength. "Lord," he whispered, "please help me get one more." And then he went to work. He crawled through the mud and smoke from one wounded soldier to the next. He ignored the bullets snapping past his head. He found men who, just days before, had called him a coward, and he treated their wounds. He dragged them, one by one, to the edge of the cliff. There he fashioned a simple rope harness and single-handedly lowered them 40 feet down to the medics waiting below. After each man was safely down, he would turn back to the battlefield and repeat his prayer, "Lord, please, help me get one more." What drives a person to do something so unfathomable? It goes deeper than simple courage or a sense of duty. To understand Desmond Doss, you have to understand the concept of telos. Telos is an ancient Greek word for our ultimate end. Our purpose, our final goal, the very reason we exist. For a Christian, our telos is to glorify God by becoming more like His Son, Jesus Christ. Desmond Doss was a man who didn't just know his telos. He was completely oriented by it. His purpose was not self-preservation. It was to be an instrument of God's love and mercy, no matter the cost. His actions on the ridge weren't a surprise. They were the inevitable result of a life lived in perfect alignment with its ultimate purpose. This is how his story becomes a powerful guide for Christians today. We may not face a literal hacksaw ridge, but we all face choices that test our purpose. Desmond's life shows us what living for the right telos looks like. First, a life aligned with its telos is a life of tangible action. The Apostle James writes in chapter 2, verse 18, "Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works." Desmond's actions were the undeniable evidence of his faith. They weren't separate from his beliefs. They were the natural outcome of a life pointed squarely at its telos of Christlikeness. His story challenges us. Does our faith produce action? Is our purpose visible in what we do? Second, living for our true telos will create friction with the world. The world's purpose is often comfort, power, or self-preservation. A Christian's telos is self-sacrifice for the glory of God. This is why Desmond was persecuted, and it's why Jesus promised in Matthew chapter 5, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When your purpose is different from the world's, resistance is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're on the right track. Finally, Desmond's story gives us the ultimate picture of what our telos looks like in practice, becoming a living sacrifice. In Romans chapter 12, verse 1, the Apostle Paul urges us, "Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service." This is the very definition of fulfilling our purpose. It is the daily conscious choice to reorient our lives away from ourselves and toward God, sacrificing our time, our resources, and our own comfort to serve others. Just as Desmond did. In the end, Desmond Doss is credited with saving 75 men. But his legacy is far greater. He left us a stunning example of a life completely captured by its divine purpose. His story leaves us with the most important question we can ask ourselves: what is my telos? What is my ultimate purpose? And am I willing to live for it, no matter the cost? Ultimately, the story of Desmond Doss is far more than a remarkable account of wartime heroism. It is a profound illustration of a life completely captured by its divine telos. On Hacksaw Ridge, his ultimate purpose, to glorify God by emulating the sacrificial love of Christ, was not just a belief he held, but a reality he lived with every life he saved. His legacy challenges us to see that our own Hacksaw Ridge is not a distant battlefield, but the landscape of our daily lives, where we are constantly presented with choices. It calls us to live as he did, with a faith demonstrated by works, with a love that serves even our detractors, and with the conviction that becoming a living sacrifice is the truest way to fulfill our ultimate purpose and one day hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant."